What you see before you is a magic wardrobe. If I were to open these doors and walk inside, I would find myself in a magical world. And the only reason I'm choosing not to do that, I'm choosing to stay on this side of these doors, is because it's my duty to remain here in order to be your candle, your candle on the water, your light of hope in dark times. I could just escape and never come back again. I could just go and enter this magical world and become become the king of the land and just dwell there for the rest of my days. But instead, I'm going to stay here and tell you all about what I'm going to tell, the kind of things I'm telling you about in this video. I wanted to mention this because it just occurred to me. Sometimes things just pop into one's mind after a while, and you think to yourself, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way before, and I don't know why I never thought of it that way before, because it was always manifestly obvious, but for some reason it didn't leave its impression on me in that way. What do I mean? What am I talking about? Well, I remember when all this misinformation jive started. It was back in 2015, and I recorded a podcast about it, a SoundCloud podcast. It was a solo thing. It was called Curators of Truthiness. I don't think it's around anymore. A lot of those SoundCloud podcasts that I had going at the time have just vanished, and I don't know why. But maybe that has something to do with SoundCloud's policy. I don't know. But it doesn't matter, because I'm going to reiterate what I said in that on that SoundCloud podcast, because this was before I was really doing anything on YouTube. What I remembered was, and this made such an impression on me that I had to talk about it, was that then President Obama had made this declaration where he said, we believe in freedom of speech. I want to make that very clear, but we need to have something on the internet. We need to have curators of truthiness on the internet. That's my Obama impression. Thank you very much. And he said it that way. He said we need to have curators of truthiness. And what made an impression on me about that at the time was that he was using that stupid Stephen Colbert term, truthiness, which I would say at some point that term had some validity insofar as it had satirical value. I think this was back when Stephen Colbert, sort of still styled himself as, somebody who was taking on the establishment. That was always bullshit, of course. He was never that. Jon Stewart was never that. And most of the people that you see on television were never the self-styled, fighters of the establishment that they claim to be. But still, this term truthiness, he used the term truthiness to mean something like, okay, it's not the truth, but it's, it kind of has the sound of truth or the feel of truth, and so it's close enough to the truth to be truthy. So it's truthiness, and that was it was meant to be, as I said, it was meant to be a sort of satirical take on propagandists who don't tell the truth, but who still believe that it's true, and but if push would say, well, it's truthy. Uh, but but at this moment in 2015, when Obama used the term truthiness, we have curators of truthiness. He wasn't being glib or funny or satirical. He was saying this needs to happen. We need to have, and of course, it has subsequently happened, hasn't it? In spades over the last few years. Um, we've seen, like I've had videos of my own. Well, I've had videos of my own removed. I've my whole first incarnation on YouTube was I got 3 strikes, so I got kicked off and had to start over from scratch. So yeah, I ran headlong into the censorship, the online censorship machine. But even when they don't outright censor you, which in the last couple of years they've been pulling back. They've been less inclined to just to take something down and give you a strike, but they are still inclined to give you this context box. So when I did a video the other day about uh, um, about Fauci and um, how he was a monster even in the 80s, like years and years before 2020. He was just a just a just a terrible person who did terrible things. Um, it was just in the 80s. It was around the surrounding AIDS and HIV. But I remember just because Fauci was in the title, that they put they put this completely irrelevant disclaimer or context box, uh, which you can, I'm not going to mention it here, but you can find it if you go back and click on that video. So that's just an example. They want to curate. They want to curate it. Uh, I mean, when you think of a curator is somebody who just tries to organize things, who just tries to set things up in a way that's that's presentable, and where things run smoothly. The curator of a museum. He's probably not going to be somebody who says, you know, uh, or at least there's nothing in the name curator that has the connotation of someone who would be censorious, but rather he's somebody who just wants to organize things. But the thing is, the way that Obama put it, he talked about how there need to be curators of truthiness. So he was talking about censorship. Or at least he was talking about, uh, you know, uh, at the very least, putting things in like comment boxes and or context boxes, uh, where they tell you, here's what you really need to know. Here's the truth about subject X, which of course we know. Wikipedia, Encyclopedia Britannica, uh, or whatever other official body, Snopes.com. We know what the truth is, uh, which is just balls. I mean, who thinks that way? Who thinks that anyone is really uh, that any one of us has access to truth about well, really anything. I mean, uh, we need to challenge uh, what's calcified orthodoxies of thought, or else those orthodoxies of thought just become rigid ideological lines that define a blatantly totalitarian culture. And anyway, that's sort of what we're getting more and more these days. Uh, but it started in 2015, and interestingly, the transformation of truthiness is again what I want to remark. How truthiness went from being this term that was like a playful, satirical, mocking term, and mock who it mocked were the propagandists, the kind of people who presume to speak the official line, and more often than not they lied, uh, but in their own minds it was close enough to the truth to be called truthy. Um, but now truthiness was being used by an American president, by somebody who represented the establishment, represented the official line on things. It was being used not in an ironic way, but in a way that was synonymous with just truth. So why didn't he just say? Why didn't he just go ahead and say curators of truth instead of curators of truthiness, which makes it sound just it runs the risk of just sounding glib. But maybe that was the reason. Maybe he wanted to sound more harmless, to make it sound more harmless than it really was, to make it sound less draconian than it really was. So, uh, curators of truthiness, look that up. See if you can find that somewhere. I know I talked about it, and as far as I know, I think I was the only one that I can remember really remarking about that quite remarkable turn of phrase used in way back in 2015, 9 years ago.